The rain hammered against the floor-to-ceiling windows of the Meridian Tower's executive suite, each drop like a bullet against Victoria Chen's carefully constructed world. At 34, she commanded a tech empire worth billions, her every decision shaping markets and futures. But tonight, as she stared at her reflection in the storm-darkened glass, she saw something that terrified her more than any corporate takeover: a woman utterly, devastatingly alone. "Marry me or I'll find someone else," she had declared just hours ago, her voice cutting through the silence of her penthouse like a blade. The ultimatum hung in the air, directed at no one and everyone, a desperate plea disguised as a command. She had everything money could buy, yet the one thing she craved most, genuine human connection, remained as elusive as smoke. Victoria's journey to the top had been paved with sacrifices that seemed reasonable at the time. Friendships withered under the pressure of 16-hour workdays. Family relationships cracked under the weight of missed birthdays and forgotten promises. Romance became a series of calculated partnerships with men who saw her as a trophy or a stepping stone. Each success in the boardroom was a step further into isolation, until she found herself queen of a kingdom populated by one. The irony wasn't lost on her that the woman who connected millions through her social media platform couldn't connect with a single soul in her own life. As she pressed her forehead against the cool glass, Victoria's eyes caught movement in the reflection behind her. Miguel Santos, the night janitor, was quietly emptying her wastebasket. She had noticed him before, not really seen him, but noticed him the way one notices furniture or fixtures. He was part of the building's invisible army of workers who kept her world spotless and functional. "Excuse me," she said suddenly, her voice sharper than intended. Miguel looked up, his weathered hands still gripping the trash bin. His dark eyes held no judgment, only patient attention. "Yes, ma'am." Victoria turned around, studying his face properly for the first time. Lines etched by years of hard work mapped his features, but his eyes held a warmth that seemed to illuminate the sterile office space. There was something about his presence, calm, steady, reassuring, that made her next words tumble out before she could stop them. "Do you think it's possible for someone like me to find love? Real love, not the kind that comes with prenups and board meetings?" Miguel set down the trash bin and considered her question with the seriousness it deserved. "Mrs. Chen, may I ask you something?" She nodded, surprised by his use of her name and his gentle, accented English. "When was the last time you did something kind for someone who could do nothing for you in return?" The question hit her like a physical blow. Victoria's mind raced through recent months, searching for an answer that wouldn't shame her. Her charitable donations were tax write-offs. Her company's community programs were PR strategies. Even her tips to service workers were calculated gestures meant to maintain her image. I can't remember," she admitted, the words barely a whisper. Miguel's expression softened. "Love isn't something you can buy or demand, Señora. It grows in the spaces between hearts when we serve each other without expecting anything back. It blooms when we water it with kindness, not when we try to purchase it with power." "But I have everything," Victoria protested, gesturing at her office, the city sprawling below them. "Why isn't that enough?" "Because everything without someone to share it with is nothing," Miguel said simply. "My wife and I, we have very little money. We live in a small apartment, we take the bus everywhere, we shop at thrift stores. But every morning when I wake up and see her face, I am the richest man in the world. Not because of what I have, but because of who I choose to love and who chooses to love me back." Victoria felt something crack inside her chest, not breaking, but opening. "How do I find that? How do I become someone worth loving?" Miguel smiled, the expression transforming his entire face. "You start by loving others. Not the kind of love that comes with contracts and conditions, but the kind that asks, 'How can I help?' Instead of, 'What can I get?' But where do I even begin?" "Right here," Miguel said, gesturing around the office. "This building is full of people. Security guards working double shifts to support their families, cleaning ladies sending money to children in other countries, maintenance workers putting their kids through college. These people see you every day, but do you see them?" Victoria realized with growing horror that she didn't. They were shadows in her peripheral vision, part of the building's machinery rather than human beings with dreams, struggles, and stories. "Tomorrow," Miguel continued, "instead of walking past them, Try saying good morning. Learn their names. Ask about their families. You might be surprised what you discover. And you think that will somehow magically bring me love. I think it will bring you something better first, Miguel replied. It will bring you peace. And from peace comes the space for love to grow. Victoria stared at this man who cleaned her floors and spoke wisdom that her Ivy League education had never taught her. Miguel, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Are you happy? His smile was radiant. Every day, Senora. Not because my life is perfect, but because I choose gratitude over bitterness, service over selfishness, and love over fear. These are choices available to everyone, rich or poor. The conversation was interrupted by Victoria's phone buzzing with yet another urgent email. She glanced at it automatically, then did something unprecedented. She turned the phone face down without reading it. Miguel, she said, would you mind if I asked about your family? You mentioned your wife. His face lit up with pride. Maria, we've been married 32 years this December. She works at the children's hospital, cleaning the pediatric ward. She says the kids need to see friendly faces, so she learns all their names and brings them little toys she finds at garage sales. Children must love her. They do. But more than that, she loves them. And loving them has made her someone who radiates joy, even when things are difficult. Victoria felt a strange sensation in her chest. Not the familiar tightness of stress or ambition, but something warm and expanding. I want to meet her. Miguel looked surprised. You do? Yes. And I want to learn from both of you. I want to understand what I've been missing. What about your work, your meetings and deadlines? Victoria looked around her office. The awards on the walls, the expensive furniture, the technology that kept her connected to everything except what mattered. My work will always be there. But this moment, this conversation, this chance to become someone better, this won't wait. Miguel studied her face as if searching for something. Whatever he found there must have satisfied him because he nodded slowly. Maria gets off work at 6 tomorrow evening. If you'd like, you could join us for dinner. Nothing fancy. Just rice and beans and stories. I would be honored, Victoria said, and meant it completely. As Miguel gathered his cleaning supplies to continue his rounds, Victoria felt something she hadn't experienced in years: hope. Not the aggressive, grasping hope of closing a deal or conquering a market, but the gentle, patient hope of a seed planted in fertile ground. Miguel, she called as he reached the door. Yes, ma'am. Thank you. For seeing me as more than I've been showing the world. He smiled that transformative smile again. We all have light inside us, Mrs. Chen. Sometimes we just need someone to help us remember where we put the switch. After he left, Victoria remained by the window, but the storm seemed less fierce now, the rain more like music than warfare. Tomorrow, she would begin the hardest and most important work of her life. Not building a company, but building a soul worthy of the love she so desperately craved. The ultimatum she had issued to the universe hours earlier now seemed like the desperate cry of a woman who had confused having everything with being everything. Miguel had shown her the difference, and for the first time in decades, Victoria Chen felt rich in ways that had nothing to do with money. Outside, the storm was passing, and somewhere in the distance, the first hints of dawn were beginning to paint the sky.